Part 104. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1056. As the Queen of Arils, Qi also participated in this offensive battle. After her strength was recognized by Binghua and she obtained the powerful star-piercing spear, her desire to fight was very strong. When the area near the Angel Guard base falls under the control of the World of Justice, it is only a matter of time before the Angel Guard base is breached. After Binghua slaughtered the Tiangong battle angels in an area around him, he set his sights on the nearby shield. After just a brief scan with the Eye of Insight, Binghua discovered that the energy composition pattern of the shield was still the same, that is, the one that Merlot Heavenly Court had eliminated. Since it is a familiar composition pattern, it becomes extremely simple to break through. Binghua got close to the surface of the shield, and the dark energy in his hand began to gather, and then he pressed on the surface of the energy shield. Immediately, the dark energy surging in Binghua's hand began to oscillate with a special rhythm. A few seconds later, the shield in front of Binghua began to ripple unsteadily, and after a moment of support, it shattered. Seeing this, Binghua immediately dodged over, and then the shield with a gap behind him quickly began to shrink until it disappeared. Being trapped inside the shield by Binghua was not a good thing. It was equivalent to a lion breaking into a closed sheepfold. Binghua's purpose was not to destroy this border guarding angel base, otherwise she would have used the mimic star to forcibly blast it, but what she would gain would only be ruins. Triangular creatures will be detected by Tiangong, and Binghua, who has long planned to attack here, will naturally not receive any news. The triangle thinks that no one knows about its actions of gradually encroaching on the known universe, but how could the Merlot Heavenly Court, which has been confronting them for so many years, not be prepared at all? It's just that too many things have happened in the known universe in recent years, which have hindered the angel's footsteps. In addition, the area where the triangle is raging is not within the angel's sphere of influence, so the angel has no major reaction. But anyone who is not a fool knows how troublesome it will be to allow the triangles to continue to expand and to eliminate them in the future. Therefore, Binghua plans to directly establish a defense line here to curb the expansion speed of the triangles. As for the issue of the rampant triangle creatures in the Edge Star field, as long as it does not affect the current situation of the Justice Order, Binghua said that they can be tolerated for a while. Binghua entered the interior of the Angel Guard base and was still in a deserted place. All the male angels who approached her and showed hostility towards her turned into cold corpses. The silver feathers surrounding him were like a king's guard, destroying all enemies for his queen. It was not until Binghua arrived near the command center of the Angel Guard base that Binghua's silver feathers returned home for the first time. Dozens of high-level angels blocked the narrow passage, which prevented Yunyu from fully utilizing his maneuverability advantage and made his changeable flight trajectory single. This was the biggest reason why Yunyu was blocked. Although many high-level angels of the Heavenly Palace present repelled the flying silver feathers, they did not pay any price at all. Not to mention those who were scratched, only the standard void weapons in their hands were knocked out by the silver feathers. The gap frightened them. Binghua stretched out his hand and retracted Yunyu with one move, losing the space to accumulate potential energy. Yunyu's lethality would be sharply reduced. In this case, it would be better to use another weapon to deal with the many high-level angels in front of him. Kill her together. We must not let her enter the command center and harm the Legion commander. If you want to stop me, unless Huaye comes in person, you are not qualified. Binghua chuckled and said, I don't know when. She also started to like to comment on the weak people who challenge her by overestimating their abilities. This may be a common problem and spare capacity of the strong. Although the silver feather was retracted, the unpredictable Qi Yuan was pulled out by Binghua, like a red-hot chain entangled in the air and drawn towards the high-ranking angel of the Tiangong at the other end of the passage. Although he blocked the whip sword with the weapon in his hand, Qi Yuan's soft and boneless sword body was the best carrier of power. Therefore, the first high-level angel of Tiangong who was drawn by Chaiwen flew directly backwards, breaking the wall made of special material. The remaining high-level angels of Tiangong were not much better. Although Binghua did not intend to destroy the main facilities here, he wielded the power of Chaiwen without any hesitation. Although the bodies of high-level angels have basically separated from the concept of flesh and blood, being cut by Chaiwen is no less than being cut open by the god-killing martial arts. Coupled with Binghua's own efforts, more than a dozen Tiangong high-ranking officials blocked the way in just a few breaths of time. The angel fell to the ground. Except for a few whose bodies were relatively intact and whose chests were still heaving, the rest were cut into pieces by Qi Yuan's saws. Binghua stepped over the corpses on the ground that were gradually turning into particles and dissipating, and carried Qi Yuan, who had shrunk into a sword form, into the command center. Outside, as Binghua passed through the shield and sent the shield's energy composition to the angels, the shield was soon broken one by one. Although the shield is being repaired quickly with sufficient energy supply, some high-level angels and god-level angels have passed through the shield. Unlike Binghua's purpose of finding the Tiangong Legion commander, the main purpose of the angels led by Ran and Elan was to guard the energy supply system and shield generator of the border angel base. Because there was a structural model of the border guard base obtained from Merlot Heavenly Court, it didn't take much effort to find the area where the shield generator was located. The Tiangong battle angel who immediately stopped Ran experienced what a lightning storm was. Lightning bolts as thick as buckets fell down. Ordinary male angels were hit and their armor vaporized on the spot. Only a few high-level angels in the heavenly palace can withstand the direct lightning strike, but even so they will be seriously injured. If they cannot recover from their injuries in time, the only thing waiting for them is death. As the shield generator was burned and led several teams of high-level angels to break through, the biggest obstacle blocking the advancement of the Justice World was also removed. Countless Justice World soldiers rushed into the base of the border guard angels. At this moment, Binghua also stepped into the command center. At this moment, there were only a few frightened male angels and the commander of the Tiangong army sitting on the main seat. I didn't expect the King of Heavenly Sword to be here in person. We are not unjustly defeated. Oh, you know me. Binghua was a little surprised. According to the lifespan of angels, most of the angels who survived the war between male and female angels 20,000 years ago and followed Huaye to escape to the Edge Nebula should have died of old age. I don't know you, but you can easily kill my entire bodyguard. There are not many gods in the entire known universe who can do it, and you, the Sky Sword King, have very distinct characteristics. Anyone who knows the details of the war between male and female angels will never forget. The commander of the Tiangong army stood up from his seat, carried out his sword, and said solemnly, "In addition, I have a merciless request. Please forgive the lives of the soldiers under my command for the sake of the fact that we are all angels." Binghua didn't care about the actions of the Tiangong Legion commander, but was stunned for a moment when he heard his words, and then expressed his appreciation. "It's really unworthy of you to serve under Huaye's banner. Do you want to consider joining me?" Binghua directly invited him, but was rejected by the Tiangong army commander. "The only one I am loyal to in this life is King Huaye. Now the only thing I can do for the king is to sacrifice my life." When Binghua saw this, he said no more and just raised the red abyss sword in his hand. A moment later, the commander of the Tiangong army stared at the Chaiwen sword passing through his body. After sighing at the power of the ice flower, it turned into energy particles and dissipated due to the collapse of the divine body. Just after the death of the leader of the Tiangong Legion, the remaining Tiangong battle angels stationed here surrendered to the world of justice. Except for a few stubborn ones who were annihilated, thousands of male angels put down their weapons and became prisoners. Binghua did not order them to be executed, provided that these prisoners knew how to behave, otherwise Binghua would not mind killing them all. Because Binghua had already paid the price for her soft-heartedness more than 20,000 years ago, She no longer had any expectations for the male angel who had been influenced by Hua Ye's set of ideas. The only way out for these surrendered male angels is to spend the rest of their lives on the edge of the world of justice, under the supervision of the Sky Sword, and use their last value to guard the borders of the world of justice. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1057. With the death of the leader of the Tiangong Legion and the fall of the Angel Guard base, the Tiangong Legion that had gathered to attack the rear of the Justice World fleet immediately came to an end. Elan only led a part of the high-level angels and the gods' fleet to retreat immediately. Most of them fled to the Justice Order, and a small number were captured or killed. In fact, most of the Heavenly Palace angels stationed here are the new generation of male angels born under Hua Ye's rule. They have no experience fighting female angels at all. In the past, I only heard seniors say how beautiful and how hateful the female angels of Angel Nebula were, but I had never really provoked the angels of Merlot Heaven. The status of the female angels under Hua Ye's rule has also been slightly improved after Hua Ye fled from the known universe, because if the female angels who follow him are not given a little sweetness, they might flee to join Mei Luo Tianting. This led to the fact that except for a few angels who had participated in the war between male and female angels, most of the Tiangong group did not have a unified understanding of how strong the female angels were, which is why they behaved so badly. After driving away the Tiangong angels stationed here, Binghua immediately ordered his angels who knew scientific research to repair the Angel Guard base, and at the same time dispatched a large number of defense forces to start building defense facilities. If the Triangle creatures dare to cause trouble, the Justice World will let them know that the scope of the Justice World is not a place where they can run wild. When building defense facilities, Binghua did not forget to capture a few triangular creatures, seal them up with special devices, and send them back to the world of justice through the jump gate. The thoughts and brainwaves of triangular creatures are much more active than normal creatures, and they can even use their powerful brainwaves to form attacks similar to mental shocks. Although angels with long lifespans and relatively developed brains cannot effectively defend against the weird attack method of the triangle, they can resist it under the protection of the armor and helmet. But the elite legions of the Justice World and the Defense Force are different. Although their will is as tough as steel, they often die directly from the brain under the super-standard mental blow from the triangle. This is something that has been verified. Not long after the Justice World took over the border of the Justice Order, a patrol boat carrying the Eternal Guard team was attacked by a triangular creature. When the reinforcements arrived, all the Eternal Guards inside the patrol boat were brain dead, which shocked the Alal's people. They had never encountered an enemy with such weird methods. But as Binghua opened up the information about the triangular creatures, the Alal's people felt relieved and prepared to use the scientific research power of the Makra world to develop a new type of armor that could effectively defend against the triangular's mental attacks. Binghua also supported this research project and provided the Angel Civilization's mental shielding algorithm as a reference. He hoped that the scholars of Makra could complete the development of new armor as soon as possible. At present, the most effective way to deal with triangular creatures is to use absolute firepower advantage to crush them and break their deflection magnetic field. The combat model of the Justice World is indeed advanced, and Merlot Heavenly Court needs to learn from it in the future. Kesha observed the entire process of the world of justice laying down the border guard angel base and gave it a very high evaluation. It's time to learn from this. Before I left Merlot Heavenly Court, I had the idea of forming an auxiliary legion to cooperate with the Angel Legion in combat. But unfortunately, you were too confident at that time and the Merlot Heavenly Army was at its peak, so my idea was not fully realized. Binghua unceremoniously started to settle old scores, which made Kesha feel a little embarrassed. Forget it, all this has passed. Now that I have control of this place, it's time to go meet Hua Ye. I heard that that guy suffered a loss at the hands of He-11 and hasn't appeared for a long time. Binghua changed the topic to Hua Ye. That guy Hua Ye is more afraid of death. He is probably frightened by He-11. Even in my heyday, I would have been very embarrassed if I entered Hexy's home court without preparation, let alone him who didn't understand anything. Kesha said with a chuckle, her words full of ridicule. It was obvious that Hua-Ye's behavior made her feel the joy she had not seen for a long time. I hope he hasn't been scared out of his wits, otherwise it would be too boring if he surrendered directly when he saw me. As Binghua spoke, he thought of the scene where his clone was swallowed by the mimic black hole created by Hua-Ye not long ago, so his tone was very unkind. Queen, there is news from the Mellow Heavenly Palace that Hua-Ye's Heavenly Palace army has launched an attack on the new Divine River Alliance and has now reached the Tyran Galaxy. According to the calculation from the Holy Kesha's Knowledge Treasure House, the Terran people will not last long, and the Regent Cheng Hexy wants to invite the Queen to discuss the next strategic plan. Jingnan walked into Binghua's room holding a projection board and began to report the information during this period, as well as the matters that needed Binghua to handle personally. Hua-Ye is really generous, and he still has the time to deal with the new Kamigawa alliance. It seems that the pressure we put on him is not strong enough. I agreed to connect with Hexy, and I happened to come with Melo Tianting to give him a big one. When Kesha saw Binghua preparing to connect with Hexy, she turned into a sacred atom and disappeared. Binghua was not too surprised to see this. In order to prevent the information that she had recovered from being leaked, Kesha was very cautious and almost never appeared in public. As the communication was connected, a projection appeared in the void opposite Binghua. It was He-11 sitting on the throne of the King of Angels. I heard from the angel under your command that you have solved the nails left by Hua-Ye on the border. Binghua, are you moving very quickly? Hexy's relaxed demeanor was in sharp contrast to his impatience not long ago, because since the collapse of the Death Song Academy in the Styx Galaxy, most of the news that has come out recently has been good news. Sister Hexy, I said that as long as I solve the matter with Carl, I will immediately join forces with the Mellow Heavenly Court to kill this guy Hua-Ye. Aren't I fulfilling my promise? Binghua responded with a smile, and then said with a slightly more solemn expression. Sister Hexy, there is no need to say more polite words. Now that we have pulled out the nails buried in Hua-Ye's back road, we should completely eliminate him as the source of chaos. Yes, now that the situation in the known universe is gradually becoming clearer, it is time to take the lead. It is too late to retreat now. It is time to eliminate the threat of Hua-Ye. I'm not good at strategic deployment. Tell me what your plans are next. Hexy gave Binghua the initiative in the conversation, intending to listen to her, a war expert's thoughts. If you have any plans, of course, give Hua-Ye a hard blow first, kicking the Tiangong group's self-confidence hard. Binghua's intention is to make a fuss about whether the Tiangong army can win. When the civilizations under Tiangong and the angels themselves don't think they can win, the Tiangong group is not far from collapse. At that time, no matter how Hua-Ye tries to remedy the situation, he will not be able to reunite the hearts of the people in the Heavenly Palace. If the angel civilization launches a general attack at that time, it will be a devastating victory. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1058. After Binghua explained his idea, Hexy felt that it was pretty good, so he agreed to the plan of the Merlot Heavenly Court Frontline Legion to cooperate with the Justice World to attack the star field where the new Tiangong, the hub of the Tiangong group, is located. As the two queens at the top of their respective civilizations made plans, the Justice World and Merlot Heaven began to make preparations quickly. Since this time it was to bypass the outer defense line of the Tiangong army and go straight to Hua-Ye's headquarters, this operation must be coordinated by celestial warships with ultra-long-range space jump and teleportation capabilities. After the final negotiation, the front-line commander Nishang mobilized 3 Skyblades and a total of 100,000 angel warriors to participate in this operation. The reason why Nishang was so talkative was entirely because this operation was led by Binghua. Nishang only cooperated with Binghua in the first war between angels and demons, but Binghua's fighting style left a deep impression on Nishang that time. Therefore, Nishang believed that Binghua would not risk the lives of the angel warriors under her command, so she mobilized so many troops and even generously took out 3 Sky Blades. Merlo Heavenly Court is so generous, and Justice World, as the leading party in this operation, will naturally not lose its momentum. Binghua jumped the 2 newly built Annihilation-class motherships in Justice World to the Chaiwa star system. Compared with the magnificent appearance of the Skyblade, the Annihilation class, as the largest battleship in the world of justice, has a much simpler appearance. Its main function is the logistics mothership of the fleet. Its main body looks like an elongated equilateral triangle from above, but the hull is extremely thick and covered with energy armor that can be easily replaced. In addition to its defensive power, the giant dark matter annihilation cannon at the bow of the ship can be fired continuously and can easily penetrate an ordinary Earth-like planet. Then there are the closed defense turrets and secondary guns of various sizes scattered throughout the ship. In addition to the above-mentioned weapons, the Annihilation-class mothership also has multiple space-time shield protection systems, as well as small space-time gate transmission devices and special weapon stasis energy ray cannons. Therefore, compared to a logistics mothership, the Annihilation class is more like a war fortress. Its powerful protection system is enough to allow it to withstand powerful firebombings and remain standing. New Tiangong, Huaye's mood has finally improved recently, because the Tiangong army is still very strong, and the new Kamigawa alliance that was jumping around before was easily disabled by his own generals. This made Huaye start to think about whether he should give up and continue to fight with Merlo Heavenly Court here, and choose to continue to expand his sphere of influence, absorb some god-making civilizations to enhance the foundation of Heavenly Palace, and thus fight a protracted war with Merlo Heavenly Court. Report to King Huaye that the Liang civilization attacked the servant army we sent to the Styx Galaxy, and threatened to get us out of the Styx Galaxy, saying that it now belongs to the Liang civilization. A male angel hurriedly ran into the hall to report urgently, which made Huaye's newly improved mood worsen again. How dare Liang and the others? I didn't go to deal with them, but they provoked me instead. Huaye immediately stood up from the throne and used his authority to start reading information about Styx. Huaye usually delegates these chores to his subordinates to handle. Only really important matters will be communicated to him by angels. It is obvious that Liang's attack on Tiangong is no longer something that the angels below can decide. The projection unfolded, and the picture showed a woman wearing frosted silver armor and a helmet. Her figure looked perfect, but it was not perfect when matched with the background behind her. The ground, air, and even buildings are burning, and the woman in the picture seems to be in a sea of flames. Scumbags of the Heavenly Palace, this goddess hereby informs you that the Styx River is now the territory of our Liang. If you don't get out of here quickly, don't blame this goddess for burning you all to ashes. The corners of Dilana's mouth raised slightly, and her tone was very arrogant. Huaye saw that veins were popping up on his forehead. This was the first existence he had seen since he broke into the Order of Justice who dared to look down on the Tiangong army like this. But Huaye soon calmed down, because Liang civilization was not a cat or dog that was easily dismissed, and he also recognized who Dilana was in the picture. The most important thing is that the most valuable remains of the Death Song Academy in the Styx Galaxy have long been recovered by Tiangong, and only some of the former affiliated civilizations of Styx are left there. At the same time, Huaye heard many reports from representatives of the Shima Empire about the emergence of a terrifying monster in the Styx Galaxy that loves to devour energy reactors. They have lost several battleships because of this. Since Liang likes this piece of rotten land so much, what if he gives it to them generously? But if he wants to take something from himself, How can he do it without paying a price? Huaya has decided that after the new Divine River Alliance is wiped out, the next one will attack Liang. It just so happened that he had been coveting Liang's star drive technology for a long time. As long as he got the star drive technology, he didn't believe he wouldn't be able to blow up the road to the Merlot heaven. Compared to the Liang civilization, Huaya is more unscrupulous. As long as he can achieve his own goals, he never cares about the casualties of innocent people. Liang Star, before the Liang Palace, Dilana took off her helmet and stepped into the main hall. Under the Liang throne, Pan Zhen sat in his seat and looked at the latest official business while sipping fragrant tea. You're back. The fire surrounding you has burned a lot of things. Of course, if those scum in the heavenly palace dare to speak rudely to this goddess, I will burn them and the entire planet. Reina said proudly, but it was different when it fell into Pan Zhen's ears. I asked you to go to the Styx River to control it. Don't let Huaya swallow it easily. Why did you take action against the people in Tiangong? Lena, who was feeling proud, said suspiciously when she heard Pan Zhen's words. I bet you didn't ask me to drive them away. Seeing Reina like this, Pan Zhen sighed. Tiangong is different from the Gulans and Thunderblade stars. They are not easy to mess with. I want you to show the strength of our Liang and let Tiangong retreat in the face of difficulties. But forget it, Huaye's momentum is getting worse day by day, and he probably won't be able to dance for long, so just offend him if he offends him. Pan Zhen put down the book in his hand and didn't pay much attention to the conflict between Reina and Tiangong. As an old antique who has lived for tens of thousands of years, Pan Zhen has a clear understanding of the situation in the known universe. He knows very well who can and cannot take advantage of. When the order of justice was ravaged by Huaya in name only, and other civilizations thought that the Merlot heavenly court would never recover, and began to crazily encroach on the civilization that originally belonged to the order of justice, Liang hid far away. Pan Zhen knew that the angel civilization was far from being as simple as it seemed. No matter how rampant the dragon Huaya was, he could not turn the world around. Although it was a pity that he couldn't take advantage of the angel's weakness to step on it, it was still okay for Liang to take the opportunity to expand while the angel was unable to affect the situation in the universe. This led to the subsequent annexation of the two major god-making civilizations of Gulans and Thunderblade, and the reconstruction of Liang's way of heaven. Now that Styx has lost its master, Liang is very interested in this unowned land. Although resources are somewhat scarce, the advantage is that there are many stars and few civilizations. By blowing up a few stars, Liang can obtain a lot of precious resources without being condemned by other civilizations. You want to talk about the beast body civilization there, but that has nothing to do with the Liang civilization. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1059. In the starfield on the edge of the Order of Justice, after the Annihilation-class mothership jumped from the Chaiwa star system to complete its preparations, Binghua has decided to launch an attack on the starfield where the new Tiangong is located. Binghua, who had not been seen for a long time, also came to the Annihilation-class bridge and sat on the main seat. As the various operators in the bridge took their positions, behind the Annihilation-class mothership, which was larger than the asteroid serving as a temporary dock, was the flames ejected from the engine suddenly brightened. The engine power has reached the appropriate range, and there are no abnormalities in the charging armor and space-time shield system. As the bridge operators uploaded the project information they were responsible for inspecting, the Annihilation-class mothership also completed the final preparations before departure. The two Annihilation-class ships left the temporary docks where they were docked one after another and began to sail to a relatively open area not far away. The operator in the bridge began to locate the Tiangong's location based on the star map transmitted by Merlot Heavenly Court, and calculated the coordinate points in space to avoid crashing into the planet after jumping out of space. Binghua did not interfere with his subordinates' work. The two supercomputers served them together. It would be a shame if they still couldn't calculate the appropriate jump coordinate point. It was obvious that the shipboard commanders of the Justice World did not disappoint Binghua. It did not take too long to complete the calculation and locate the position closest to the star field where the Tiangong was located. In this operation, in addition to Ran wanting to stay and lead some angel warriors to guard against the counterattack of the Tiangong army, Binghua took away more than half of the high-level angels and a large number of elite legions. As the Annihilation-class battleship was covered by a translucent energy field, the next second it suddenly turned into a twisted light and disappeared into the void without a trace. Another Annihilation-class ship followed closely behind and left here using the same method, leaving only the Justice World troops stationed here. Close to the edge of the Angel Nebula, the home planet of the Carol civilization that once believed in angels has almost become a scorched earth under the ravages of the Tiangong army. I thought that the demon would leave like this, but who knew that the Tiangong army was frustrated when attacking Angel Nebula. Instead of leaving, the Tiangong army used this place as a temporary base camp and stationed it for several years. But these past few years have been a hell for the Kalar people. The soldiers of the Tiangong often take pleasure in killing them, and some of their servants even cruelly hunt them as food. The Kalar people have gone from a prosperous post-nuclear civilization with a population of several billion to a rudimentary civilization with only a few billion people, most of whom are old, weak, women and children. In the past, under the protection of the mellow heavenly court, the Kalar people still felt that the rules of justice and order had too many rules, and they also thought about whether they could secretly make some small moves to strengthen their own civilization. After Huaya invaded the order of justice, the Kalar people were happy for a while, thinking that finally a civilization could break the angels' solid order of justice system and give them the opportunity to develop rapidly. But who knew that they were unfortunately involved in a war between two top civilizations, and because they were too close to the Angel Nebula, they were targeted by the Tiangong army. The people of Karar now have no intention of development and pray every day that the angels can defeat the heavenly palace as soon as possible and re-establish the order of justice. Compared with venturing alone in the dangerous universe, the Kalar people still feel that living under the wings of angels is happier and more beautiful. Just have more rules. They don't care anymore. But the loss is destined to be irreversible. How dissatisfied they were with some restrictions of the just order, now they hope that the just order will be restored as soon as possible. But a few years have passed, and the Kalar people can't see any hope of saving their civilization, and the entire ethnic group has begun to become discouraged. Several sporadic resistances were suppressed by the servant army under Tiangong, and failed to cause any trouble. Just when the remaining Kalar people were trying to survive like walking zombies and were about to fall into complete despair, they discovered that the male angels that came and went in the sky above them every day suddenly gathered and rushed in one direction. On the outskirts of the Kalar planetary system where the Kalar civilization is located, in order to prevent the time and space jumps of hostile civilizations from jumping in their faces, the Tiangong built multiple buildings in this planetary system that they used as their temporary base to shield the time and space jumps. Base Station. Wanting to jump in time and space to the place you want to reach requires extremely superb time and space jumping and measurement technology, but wanting to disrupt the time and space you are in has never been a difficult task for a god-making civilization. Therefore, the Annihilation-class mothership where Binghua was located did not successfully jump to the vicinity of the designated Kalar star, but was repelled to a position close to the orbit of the outermost planet in the Kalar planetary system. But this was enough to alarm the Imperial Guards under Huaya in the planetary system, and immediately a fleet of Shima Empire's servants approached. Seeing that the captain of the Annihilation-class battleship had the intention of stopping and setting up a battle formation with the opponent, Binghua, who was in the lead position, intervened in command for the first time. Open the scanning system and mark the space-time shielding facilities in the planetary system. At the same time, prepare to jump and sail to the nearest space-time shielding facility. Regarding Binghua's words, the captain hesitated and asked, Goddess, although the defense of the Annihilation class is very powerful, it is only a matter of time before we are really surrounded by enemy forces and the space-time shield is breached. The Annihilation class captain had no choice but to be careless. The goddess was well known to everyone, but the enemy he faced this time was different from the usual small characters, but male angels of the same race as the goddess. "Don't worry, with me here, no existence can stop us." Binghua smiled confidently at the captain's hesitation. Seeing that the goddess insisted, the captain no longer hesitated and immediately gave the order to jump sail. Another Annihilation-class ship following Binghua's Annihilation-class also received the latest order, which was to separate from the mothership where the goddess was in front and attack another space-time shielding facility. At the same time, Ai Lan, who was sitting in his seat with his eyes closed and concentrating inside the Annihilation-class ship, also received instructions from Binghua, which was to cooperate with the Annihilation class to destroy the designated target. When the two Annihilation class ships jumped from the Justice World space, the Tiangong Army Command Headquarters was not idle either. Although he didn't know which civilization these two supergiant ships belonged to, they just needed to fight. After discovering that the two Annihilation class ships were separated, the commander of Tiangong immediately understood the intentions of Binghua's side. This means that these two Annihilation-class battleships are only the vanguard, and there should be supporting troops that will arrive in the Kalar planetary system through space jumps. The Guards Corps guarding the vicinity of Kalar was immediately mobilized, and through the Tiangong flagship, a celestial warship transportation platform, they arrived at the space-time shielding facility targeted by the Annihilation-class warship. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1060. Since they are in their own base camp, the Tiangong guards can quickly reach their destination through the space jump of the Tiangong flagship. On the contrary, the Annihilation-class battleships of the Justice World need to jump for a while to arrive. This is why Commander Tiangong feels confident that he can stop the Annihilation-class battleship from destroying the space-time shielding facility. After issuing the order, Commander Tiangong sat back on his seat and began to drink tea leisurely. After all, they were only two Celestial-class battleships, and they could not shake the Kalar planetary system controlled by the Tiangong guards. But the truth is obviously not that simple. Near the satellite of Kalar's seventh planet, a stream of light suddenly shuttled through, which was the Annihilation-class mothership. And just above him, on the planet's satellite with a diameter of more than 200 kilometers, a towering tower-like facility was constantly radiating its own blue energy glow towards the surroundings. Immediately, the turret on the side of the Annihilation-class mothership quickly adjusted its muzzle. The next moment, the dense dark energy railgun beams like a rain curtain covered the shield of the space-time shielding facility, knocking it to the point of collapse. At this moment, the originally empty space in the surrounding starry sky suddenly fluctuated violently, and several Tiangong flagships jumped over, surrounding the Annihilation-class battleships. The next moment, the Annihilation-class mothership received a fierce energy bombardment from the surrounding Tiangong flagships. The space-time shield system covering the entire ship continued to fluctuate and began to dispel the sudden terrifying energy. After discovering that the firepower of the Tiangong flagship alone could not break through the space-time shield system at once, the Tiangong flagship immediately began to release the Tiangong Imperial Guards it carried. In an instant, thousands of heavenly palace guard angels appeared in the surrounding starry sky. They held cross swords and continuously sent out energy slashes composed of dark energy. They even stuck up and used their weapons to cut on the shield. Under the attack of so many Tiangong angels, the space-time shield was gradually unable to maintain the shield strength throughout the ship, and could only redistribute energy to prioritize blocking strikes and bombings from the Tiangong mothership. A small number of Tiangong angels relied on the cutting of their weapons to briefly break through the protection of the space-time shield and rushed into the vicinity of the Annihilation-class ship. Just when the Tiangong Imperial Guards were excitedly preparing to rush into the ship and massacre, the Annihilation-class closed defense system came into play. Although the power of the energy shells fired by the dark energy rapid-fire cannons that were intercepted layer by layer could not be eliminated with one shot, after dozens or hundreds of rounds, even the powerful Tiangong guards were unable to withstand it. He was forced to dodge in all directions due to the fire resistance. But trying to use this kind of firepower to destroy the invading Tiangong guards is tantamount to wishful thinking, because the close-range firepower system can also be destroyed. As the close-range firepower was gradually knocked out, it was only a matter of time before the Tiangong guards broke through the fire blockade and rushed into the ship. This only applies to civilization in general, but not to a just world. When it was discovered that the destruction class's own firepower alone was unable to deal with the surrounding Tiangong flagships in a short time, and that it was also limited by its large size and could not expel the approaching Tiangong guards, Binghua ordered the angels in the ship to go out and engage. The other annihilation level where Elan was located also encountered a similar situation. It was also blocked by the Tiangong guards in the space area near the space-time shielding facility. Judging from the deployment and mobilization of Tiangong, it seems that they are planning to encircle and annihilate them here. If the general civilization is in such a predicament, it may have nothing to do but hate it. But whether it's Binghua or Elan's side, there are 300 fully armed high-level angels in the ship, as well as a large number of aerial fighters and destruction-class battleships. The reason why he was not released at the beginning was because he was afraid that he would be entangled by the Tiangong guards and would not be able to take it back and move it quickly. This was contrary to the battle plan this time. But it was different when the high-level angels were released. They were strong enough and could quickly return to the mothership. Therefore, the Imperial Guards finally found an opportunity to break into the enemy ship, but what greeted them was the dangerous flaming sword in the hands of the high-level angels. And Fan Shenjian. Suffer death. You scum. An experienced judgment angel waved the flaming sword in his hand with a sinister expression and chopped open the chest and armor of a Tiangong guard. The memories that had been sealed in her heart for tens of thousands of years resurfaced. After a while, her eyes behind her visor turned slightly red, and her pupils were filled with the flames of hatred. She recalled her companions who had fallen into the hands of Tianjia, and it happened that she hadn't killed enough of them more than 20,000 years ago. Today, she had to kill until she could no longer wield the sword. Of course, this is only a minority. Most high-level angels in the world of justice do not have such unforgettable hatred for Tianjia, but the way Tianjia looks at them is enough to make them feel angry. The appearance of high-level angels can be said to frighten the captain-level existence of the Tiangong Imperial Guard. This seems a bit wrong. The attacker was not the civilized minions at all, but the elite troops of Merlot Heaven who were hiding high-level angels. Now that he has decided to cut the knot quickly, Binghua, the most powerful fighter, will naturally not hide in the battleship. However, Binghua's target was not the frightened Tiangong guards, but the space-time shielding facility. The shield of the space-time shielding facility, which was already crumbling under the firepower of the Annihilation-class battleship, only lasted for tens of seconds before being crushed to pieces by Binghua's 10-kilometer force field. The subsequent space-time shielding facilities did not last long. Under the tearing of the force field, the outer shell was quickly peeled off, and the internal core structure was pressed into a solid metal block. As a result, a space-time shielding facility was destroyed, and the space-time disruption covering the entire Kalar planetary system began to decrease. If you risk a space jump at this time, you can jump directly into the Kalar planetary system, but it's hard to say where exactly. Maybe it will appear inside the star and be burned to ashes. After doing this, Binghua turned his attention to the surrounding Tiangong guards. In the communication, Binghua ordered the Annihilation-class battleship to continue performing its scheduled mission and destroy other space-time shielding facilities. Some high-level angels also received the order from the goddess and began to return to the Annihilation and Mothership, leaving only a small number to assist the goddess in dealing with the Tiangong guards here. Okay, now I will be your opponent. Are you ready to face destruction? Binghua's voice sounded in this space, echoing in the communication channels of all nearby angels. The few Tiangong guards who participated in the Shenayun battle and survived have already recognized who Binghua is, and the hands holding their weapons began to tremble slightly, and they quietly stepped back to distance themselves from Binghua, deeply aware of the situation. I am afraid that I will be easily fooled by this great god. But there are many Tiangong guards who don't know Binghua. Seeing that Binghua is so arrogant and dares to stand in front of thousands of Tiangong guards, some Tiangong guards said with disdain. Just because you want to stop our Tiangong Imperial Guard, see if I don't take off your armor and present it to King Huaye. Faced with such an insult, Binghua just smiled and responded. Really? I'm afraid Huaye won't dare to ask for it. As he finished speaking, Binghua opened his fingers and pointed at the planetary satellite on the side. As the force field spread, the satellite began to tremble slightly. The next moment, its surface broke and floated, like an egg being peeled. Under the shocked gazes of many Tiangong guards, the planetary satellite lost nearly two-thirds of its volume, leaving only an irregular piece of debris hanging there alone. The missing part turned into a surging Kaki ocean beside Binghua, and before the Tiangong guards could react, the Kaki ocean swept over. The immeasurable amount of earth and stone turned into a curtain covering dozens or hundreds of kilometers, covering the imperial guards of Xiangtian Palace, swallowing and grinding them one after another like water. Although the Tiangong imperial guards struggled hard to escape from the whirlpool formed by countless earth and rocks, they were dragged downwards by the continuously rotating and churning earth and rocks. As Binghua's open 5 fingers tightened, the surging sea of earth and rocks finally stopped surging and turned into a spherical shape that completely solidified. The Tiangong Imperial Guard who managed to escape with his life could still vaguely see some of his colleagues on the surface of the sphere. Half of the arm exposed. It was obvious that under the horrific squeezing and grinding, nearly 1,000 heavenly palace guards who had been swallowed into the sphere had all died, and no one survived. Such a horrific act made Binghua look like the incarnation of death in the eyes of the Tiangong Imperial Guards. The remaining 2,000 Tiangong Imperial Guards immediately lost their will to fight. Because it was impossible to fight, they probably would have been killed before they even got close to each other. Binghua didn't have any psychological burden for killing Huaye's subordinate Tianza. Seeing that the other party was cowering, Binghua took out his sword and pressed forward directly. The other high-ranking angels present cheered one after another, seeming to be applauding the goddess's power just shown, and then followed the goddess to attack the formation of the heavenly palace guards. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1061. While Binghua was chasing the Tiangong Imperial Guards, the Annihilation class mothership where Ailan and Hizui were on the other side also destroyed their target. The commander of the Tiangong Guards who blocked them was killed on the spot by the crane chasing formation. Ailan took advantage of the Tiangong Guards being dragged down by the high-ranking angels, used Skyblade Judgment to break the shield of the space-time shielding facility, and used a flame bombardment to kill him. Deep fried. However, Ailan and Hizui did not make the same choice as Binghua. Instead, they returned to the annihilation level and forcibly jumped away from the battlefield to the next space-time shielding facility. Binghua chased the fleeing Tiangong Imperial Guards all the way to the central space region of the Kalar planetary system, and then encountered the Angel Legion and several Titan ships coming for support. Titans, it seems that you have forgotten the lessons you have learned. Now that you are mixed with Huaye, aren't you afraid of being exterminated? Binghua's shouts echoed in the void, but the approaching Titan battleship did not stop, but responded with a blazing beam of light dozens of meters in diameter. Binghua's figure was directly covered, but after the beam dissipated and was exposed to the eyes of the Titans, Binghua was unscathed. If it weren't for the slightly distorted space baked by the high temperature, they would have thought that their attack had missed. Finding that the beam attack had little effect, the Titan battleship's secondary guns began to pour dense energy bombs compressed into water droplets at Binghua. Seeing this figure, Binghua dodged slightly to avoid the energy cannonballs that were swept towards him. He stretched out his hand and turned his force field into an invisible giant palm, pushing the energy cannonballs towards the Titan ship. Dozens of flames immediately erupted from the surface of the huge Titan ship, and then it was hit hard by the force field. The majestic ship body, which was more than 10 kilometers long, immediately tilted slightly to one side. In the end, relying on the huge mass of the ship, the Titan ship was not overturned by Binghua's force field impact, but it still made a wise choice to distance itself from Binghua. But this is nothing more than a dream. Binghua's speed is so fast. The wings behind her spread out like a shooting star, quickly approaching the retreating Titan ship at a speed visible to the naked eye. The next second, a dazzling flash of light exploded on the Titan ship's shield, and a horrifying energy wave spread. The Titan ship was hit by the huge impact and the hull tilted backwards. But before the Titan ship could completely overturn, dozens of silver chains shot out from the spreading energy at high speed and submerged into the Titan ship's hull. Come back. After Binghua finished speaking, the Titan ship was pulled back abruptly by her relying on the Shushen chain as a carrier and the force field surrounding it as her palm. Seeing the Titan battleship covering the sky pressing towards him, Binghua flicked his left hand, covering it with the Titan's grip, and then clenched his fingers tightly. The invisible force field energy immediately began to compress and solidify. As Binghua punched forward with all his strength, the space that seemed to be stagnant for hundreds of meters also crashed forward. If it weren't for a vacuum, there would definitely be a loud noise that resounded throughout the world at this moment. The thick outer armor of the Titan battleship was directly dented by the force field fist. Binghua stopped the largest Titan battleship, and the other high-level angels that followed her also attacked the other Titan battleships that came for support. On the planet Carrier, Huaya in the royal court of Heavenly Palace listened with a solemn expression as his subordinates continued to report on the whereabouts of the righteous world that had invaded the planet Carrier. Why did that guy Binghua suddenly appear here? Tell the Titan King that he must stop her from me. After giving the order, Huaya's face looked uncertain. He was thinking about whether he should accept the challenge. If he did not accept the challenge, he should leave here quickly, otherwise he would be blocked by Binghua and he would not be able to escape even if he wanted to. Report to King Huaya that 4 space-time shielding facilities have been destroyed. The Commander-in-Chief asked me to report a piece of news to the King. The Sky Sword King's target is the space-time shielding facility. She is most likely just the vanguard, and angel reinforcements should arrive later. The Commander-in-Chief suspected that this sudden attack by the Heavenly Sword King was probably a beheading planned by Merlot Heavenly Court, so he begged the king to move to the spare royal court. When Huaya heard this, his hand on the armrest of the throne clenched tightly, because this was exactly what he was worried about. In his mind, Binghua never did anything meaningless, and he never lost a battle. With the Annihilation-class battleships of the Justice World attacking everywhere in the Kalar planetary system, and Binghua chasing the Angel Guards around, attracting most of the attention of the Tiangong defenders, the operation to destroy the space-time shielding facility was extremely smooth. As the space-time shield covering the entire Kalar planetary system gradually dissipated, Binghua also chased the fleeing Tiangong Imperial Guards and the Titans to the cosmic realm near the Kalar planet. The goddess's space-time shielding facilities have all been destroyed, and Merlot Heaven has applied to intervene in the battlefield. Hearing this, Binghua threw a Titan warrior captured by the force field aside, and at the same time responded to the request of his subordinates in the communication. Send them the time and space coordinates. Huaya should be on the Kalal planet. After hanging up the communication, Binghua stared at the Tiangong flagships assembled on the track ahead, and moved his wrists, intending to get them down so that they would not be an eyesore. but before Binghua could take action. In the space near her, a vertical crack suddenly opened in the space, and then 3 Skyblade battleships appeared one after another. It was obvious that before obtaining the time and space coordinates of the Justice World, the 3 heavenly blades that Merlot Heavenly Court cooperated with this time had prepared for space jumps, so that they could reach the battlefield so quickly. Shortly after the 3 Skyblades arrived on the battlefield, the 2 Annihilation-class battleships belonging to the Justice World also made a short jump to the vicinity of Kalar. At this point, the legions that broke into the hinterland of the Tiangong army have completed their rendezvous, and the Annihilation class can finally safely launch its aerial and space fighters and Annihilation class battleships. Because the space area near this planet will become the main battlefield in the future, Tianren also released tens of thousands of angel warriors on board, and densely patrolled around Tianren. Coral Star is where the Heavenly Palace Royal Court is today. The originally retreating Heavenly Palace Imperial Guards have retreated here and have no way to retreat. They can only prepare to fight to the death with Marrow Heavenly Court and the Just World under the force of their superiors. The 2 sides had nothing to say, so they started fighting as soon as they met. The Heavenly Blade and the Tiangong flagship began to bombard each other, and the energy shock of the explosion stirred up the surrounding universe. The Imperial Guards of the Heavenly Palace dispersed and charged like space fighter planes. The Angel Warriors of the Mellow Heavenly Palace and the aerial fighter planes and destruction-class battleships of the Justice World also counterattacked without showing any signs of weakness. In a moment, the 2 parties were mixed together, but the Merlot Heavenly Court and the Justice World, which had the superior strength, were quickly eating up the Tiangong Imperial Guards on the Tiangong side. Binghua also took the lead and rushed to the vicinity of the huge Tiangong flagship. He carried out his neutron blade and relied on the gravitational waves that could distort space. He easily shattered a shield of the Tiangong flagship and landed on the platform above its hull. Superior. Kill her quickly. Seeing a female angel intruding in, the male angel commander on the Tiangong flagship immediately yelled. Upon hearing the sound, several fully armed Tiangong guards rushed over, holding standard void weapons glowing with unknown purple energy. But before they could get close to Binghua, a super strong gravitational wave spread out, and the metal deck around Binghua's center began to twist and deform, and the area continued to spread. Even the Tiangong Imperial Guards flying in the air were no exception and were directly pressed onto the deformed deck by the invisible gravitational waves. As the intensity of the gravitational waves continued to increase, their armor began to deform, and finally their bodies were pressed directly into the twisted and collapsed deck. Such a horrifying sight made the nearby Tiangong Imperial Guards know that Binghua was not someone to be trifled with, but after all, they were the elites under Huaye's command and would not escape in the face of a strong enemy. Therefore, the Tiangong Imperial Guard changed their style of play and began to use long-range attacks in an attempt to avoid the influence of Binghua's gravitational waves. Binghua doesn't care about this. Her original target is not these Tiangong Guards, but the Tiangong flagship at her feet. With such a celestial-level battleship on the battlefield, its firepower will greatly affect the world of justice and Merlot Heaven. Attack. In order to destroy the celestial battleship at his feet, Binghua held the neutron blade upside down and stabbed it towards the deck of the Tiangong flagship at his feet, half of the blade being engulfed. As Binghua manipulated the force field on the neutron blade and controlled the direction of the gravitational waves, the flagship of the Tiangong ship actually fell towards the nearby Kalal star. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1062. Suppressed by the gravitational waves of the neutron blade in Binghua's hand, the operators of the Tiangong flagship, which fell towards the atmosphere of the Kalar star, tried to use the lift of the Tiangong flagship's driving engine to offset the influence of the gravitational waves. But the so-called arm cannot twist the thigh. The gravitational wave intensity of the neutron blade is the thigh in front of the Tiangong flagship, and it falls all the way to the surface. The Tiangong flagship can only try its best to slow down the speed of falling to prevent it from falling to pieces when it comes into close contact with the Earth. In this way, the surviving Carrier people on the planet Carrier saw a strange scene. A magnificent creation burning with fire in the sky was falling towards the Earth, just like the palace of the gods collapsing from the divine world to the mortal world in myths and legends. Because the Tiangong flagship struggled to rise as a buffer, the damage caused by the fall of the huge Tiangong flagship was not too serious, but it still caused a strong earthquake in an area with a radius of dozens of kilometers. The nearby Kalar people ran in a direction away from the fall of the Tiangong flagship with a wink, without any intention of finding out. Because they have long understood the horror of war between gods. It is not something that mortals can admire. The aftermath of their confrontation can destroy mountains. In fact, it was not much different from what they imagined. Binghua reached the highest point and raised one leg to stand on the armor plate that was raised due to the huge impact, looking down at the Tiangong guards who were gradually crawling out of the ruins below. Death or surrender, I now give you the freedom to choose. Binghua's cold voice came from above his head, shocking the hearts of the Tiangong guards below. What Binghua had done before was still vivid in their minds. But at this moment, the voice of the commander of Tiangong came to the ears of the Tiangong guards. Soldiers of the heavenly palace, don't believe the enemy's lies. We and the female angels are your life and death enemies, and the other side will not let us go easily. No matter how powerful she is, there will always be times when she is short of energy. Whoever can kill her, the King of Heaven will grant you the qualification to become a god. The eyes of the Tiangong guards who were present immediately lit up after hearing this. Becoming a god and not becoming a god are two concepts. God has eternal life and extremely powerful divine power, and is in existence at the top of the universe. Seeing this, Binghua also knew that the Tiangong imperial guards in front of him were not planning to surrender. In fact, if the force fields of both sides were exchanged, Binghua would not surrender so easily unless he killed their spiritual leader Array on the spot. If Binghua believed that he was willing to spare their lives as long as he opened his mouth, the angels in the Tiangong would definitely kneel down faster than anyone else. But he had already hit his royal court, so why didn't Huaya come out to fight? He wouldn't have escaped alone like before. When he thought of this, Binghua felt a little anxious. If Huaya ran away, the results of this breakthrough operation would be reduced by half. Binghua, who was anxious to find Huaya, couldn't help but use some rough methods. Under the crushing force field, both the surrounding metal debris and the Tiangong Imperial Guards were severely crushed to the ground. In an instant, all other surrounding noises were cleared, leaving only the painful screams of the Tiangong Imperial Guards. However, as Binghua increased the force of the force field, the Tiangong Imperial Guards and the metal debris beneath them were crushed into a flat surface. The only thing that was clear for thousands of meters around was Binghua and the male angels of the heavenly palace guards who were half buried in the metal debris squeezed into a flat surface at their feet. Binghua then spread his wings and rushed into the sky without stopping here. He opened his eyes of insight and began to scan the Kalar star, searching for the location of the heavenly palace. After a moment, Binghua suddenly rushed in one direction, and the target was the royal court of heavenly palace located on the far side of the horizon. As the ice blossoms rushed straight into the heavenly palace, the war between male and female angels in the outer orbital space also reached a very intense stage. Under the attack of the superior forces of Justice World and Marrow Heavenly Court, and a Tiangong flagship was sunk by Binghua, the Tiangong Imperial Guard was quickly suppressed. Soon the battle line was pushed to the vicinity of the Tiangong flagship. Under the bombardment of several Sky Blades and Annihilation-class ships and the concentrated fire of the Angel Warriors, the Tiangong flagship soon fell one after another, without even a chance to escape. Because all this happened so fast, before the Tiangong Legion and Titan Protoss fleet stationed on other planets in the Kalar planetary system could react, the Tiangong Royal Court garrison on Kalar was dispersed. The Heavenly Palace Royal Court is in danger, and the Heavenly Palace support troops from all over the country rushed to the Kalar Star anxiously. By the time the first batch of support troops arrive, the coalition forces of the Merlot Heavenly Court and the Justice World have already invaded the Kalar Star and begin to encircle and annihilate the escaping Tiangong Forbidden City hiding on the surface. Guarded. Binghua arrived at the Royal Palace of Heaven built on the planet Kalar, a magnificent palace built on an extremely large area in the center of the ruins of the city on the planet Kalar, but her way was blocked by the high-strength shield in front of her. Binghua observed the surroundings and was about to use the neutron blade to forcibly break the shield and level the area when he suddenly noticed a lot of biological reaction signals nearby. So Binghua paused, turned around, pointed the weapon in his hand at the collapsed building debris, and shouted sharply. "Who is it? Come out." Hearing a few wisps of dust falling from the building debris, a young figure with unkempt hair and a body covered in fly ash from the building debris timidly crawled out. "Child." Binghua frowned slightly, then opened his eyes of insight to scan the surrounding area, and soon discovered that there were more than 100,000 biological reaction signals densely scattered under the building debris in this area. After a period of comparison, these life response signals turned out to be from Kalar people, which put Binghua in a bit of trouble. She didn't expect that the Royal Court of Heavenly Palace would be built on top of an underground city with countless Kalar people living below. Huaye was really disgusting. Because Binghua could tell a lot through the clothes and attitude of the child just now, it was obvious that the Kalar people were not doing well under the rule of Tiangong. "Excuse me, Angel Sister, are you here to save us?" A timid voice pulled Binghua out of her thoughts. Hearing the sound, she looked towards the young figure who had been hiding in the debris of the building. Through the messy hair hanging in front of his forehead, she saw the thick look in his eyes. A strong look of expectation. "Yes, I am a female angel from the Merlot Heavenly Palace, and I am here to destroy Huaye, the king of the Heavenly Palace." Binghua's originally indifferent tone could not help but be somewhat soft. "Really? Mom didn't lie to me, she didn't lie to me, she said you would definitely come and save us Kalar people." The young voice began to sob as he spoke, and tears slid down his dirty cheeks uncontrollably, dripping and splashing on the broken stones under his feet. Binghua did not step forward to comfort him, but quietly watched the young figure vent his emotions. After dozens of seconds, the young figure was no longer so excited and could control her emotions a little. She seemed to have thought of something. "Sister, I want to tell everyone the good news of your arrival. Everyone has been looking forward to this day for a long time." After saying that, the young figure quickly ran towards the place where she had just come out. Binghua stretched out her hand to stop her, but she put it down as soon as she raised it. Shaking her head slightly, Binghua once again focused her attention on the nearby Heavenly Palace. She could already see some male angels pouring out of the Heavenly Palace, seemingly preparing to continue to hold on. At the same time, a burst of blue light flashed across the sky of Kural Star, and a Titan ship that covered the sky jumped out. Then several more space-jumping lights lit up, and several Shima Empire ships' battleship appears. It was obvious that part of the Tiangong reinforcements stationed in the Kalar planetary system had arrived. But before the Titan ships and the Shima Empire's warships could deploy their troops, several blazing energy rays fell from the sky. Several Shima Empire's warships were penetrated without any resistance, broke into two pieces and fell to the ground. Only the Titan ship's shield blocked the attack, and it began to raise the large and small secondary guns on the bow and hull, seeming to prepare for a counterattack. At the same time, dozens of Titan warriors wearing thick and fully armored armor jumped out of the ship, and the tall figures landed on the ground with a rumble, throwing up a burst of dust. Immediately, these giant gods who stood tall on the ground looked up at the sky. With the help of armor, the energy surging in their bodies gathered in their hands and turned into spear shapes, and threw them towards the angels swooping down from the sky. Most of these energy spears were avoided by the angels, but some were lucky enough to hit them. The terrifying energy exploded immediately, and the angel warriors covered in them were scorched black and lost consciousness. They fell to the ground among the swooping angel warriors. God has come to save us. Save us, Kaler people. Excited choking sounds came from behind Binghua. She turned around and saw a group of people pouring out from the exit of the building wreckage. She looked excitedly at Binghua and everything that was happening in the sky. Binghua had no free time to tangle with these carers at the moment, so he interrupted their excited voices. I believe you have also seen that this place has become a battlefield. If you don't want to be involved and die in vain, leave this area quickly. After hearing the sound, the Kaler people present also reacted, and regardless of expressing their gratitude, they began to hurriedly return to the underground city under the city's ruins to inform others. Angel, I want you to be buried with my fallen kin. A deafening sound came, and a Titan warrior discovered Binghua, holding the energy spear in his hand that was gathered from huge energy, and stabbed it. The angel wings behind Binghua subconsciously unfolded and he was about to leave here to escape, but then he thought of something and stopped his movements abruptly. He raised his hand and the invisible force field turned into reality. Boom! The ear-piercing explosions kept coming back to mind, and the energy spear thrust out by the Titan was blocked by a transparent barrier like a wall, and could no longer move forward. Binghua's face was extremely cold and hard as reflected by the flickering energy glow. He flapped his wings and flew up, using a force field to form a barrier and forcefully push back the Titan's attack. Immediately, the flame bombing formula completed the calculation and energy accumulation in an instant, and was slashed out by the king's sword that had just been drawn out of Binghua's right hand. It turned into a sky-reaching energy wave and blasted the Titan away, extending all the way forward across the earth. A 1,000-meter ravine was left on it. With such a lively fight above their heads, the Kaler people who were evacuating below the ruins of the city were anxious. Due to the violent shaking, many areas of the underground city collapsed, burying many people. But at this moment, no one is still thinking about rescue. The war between gods and gods above the head has begun. If you don't leave here quickly, you may be affected and lose your life. Binghua from the outside world is also aware of the current situation of the people in the underground city of Karer. She has already asked in the communication not to use large energy weapons for the time being, and she has tried to restrain her movements as much as possible. Otherwise, the Annihilation class and Tianren parked in the outer orbit would have carried out orbital bombing and consumed the defense system of the Tiangong Palace, instead of engaging in exchanges of fire with enemy ships as they do now. Binghua had no other alternative. She could not order a retreat or suspend the attack because the battlefield situation did not allow it. Although Binghua could rely on his own prestige to let the Angel Alliance wait for the Karer people to withdraw from the battlefield before attacking, but now the coalition is located in the Karer planet system, the base camp of Tiangong. Every minute of delay, the Tiangong army coming to support becomes more and more powerful. At that time, not only the lives of the Kaler people will be paid, but also the lives of angels and the soldiers of the righteous world. Binghua could give some help to the Kaler people because of the kindness in his heart, but he could not let the warriors of the justice world and Merlot heaven give his life in vain. Because she is not the savior of the Karers, but the goddess of the just world, the Karers can only rely on themselves if they want to survive this war. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1063. The moment she took action, Binghua's presence attracted the attention of many Titan warriors like the bright moon in the dark night, especially after one of their companions fell. God of Angels! Kill her! Immediately, several Titan warriors with a height of nearly 100 meters drew out the giant soldiers they carried on their backs and ran towards Binghua in large strides. Those heavy steps that could shake the earth could give the enemy huge psychological pressure. The Titans are elite warriors trained by the Titan Protoss for more than 10,000 years. In addition to armor that can greatly enhance their own energy control and defense, they are also specifically trained to deal with small combat units such as angels. Although the Titan warriors felt a little tricky about the god of war in Kamigawa, they were far from being afraid. As for the notorious existence of Binghua, they had only heard about it in the words of the Titan god king and had never faced it in person. In addition, because angels all looked the same in their eyes, it was naturally difficult to distinguish Binghua. The difference from other female angels. Before formulating this battle plan, Binghua learned about the existence of Titan warriors from the information of Merlot Heavenly Court, and also prepared countermeasures for the forces of the justice world. But now that these majestic giants come to find her, it would be perfect. Today she, Binghua, is here to kill several Titans who claim to be giants, telling the Titans that even after 20,000 years, they are still worthy of only kneel down and surrender before the angel's sword, or die. But unfortunately, just when Binghua was full of enthusiasm and ready to take action, several hexagonal metal ceiling armors fell from the sky, attracting the attention of everyone present. Under the full force of the reverse jet engine, they finally did not hit the ground directly from an altitude of tens of thousands of meters, but they still sank into the earth like a 100-meter metal giant sword piercing the earth. Accompanied by the deafening sound of metal machinery operating, the hexagonal metal encapsulated armor fell in all directions amid the jet of gas caused by the decompression, revealing the magnificent mechanical creation protected within it. The closed arms of the 10 Apocalypse mechas and the dark energy annihilation cannons on their backs unfolded, and they stepped out from the metal platform on which they stood with heavy steps. The Apocalypse is here. You guys, let's welcome the Iron Fist from the world of justice. Apocalypse's pilots always like to vent their strong emotions and enthusiasm with words on the battlefield, and this moment is no exception. The Titans also discovered the Apocalypse mecha, which was about the same size as them, and immediately gave up the trouble of looking for the angels, preparing to spar with these big guys. Apocalypse is not afraid at all. They have never been afraid of enemies of similar size to themselves. The twin dark energy annihilation cannons mounted on the lowered hands spit out deadly rays of light, and the heavy bombardment exploded with brilliant sparks on the rushing Titan. The Titans also showed no sign of weakness and gathered energy to throw spear-like energy spears. However, Apocalypse, who had a prediction system, calculated the attack trajectory in advance and calmly avoided it. However, some of the Apocalypse who were caught in the fire did not get out of the way, but the powerful space-time shield could protect the body from any energy blow that did not exceed the upper limit before Apocalypse's energy was exhausted. Apocalypse could not ignore the explosive impact of the energy strike, so his huge machine fell backwards, crushing the debris of the building within 100 meters. The appearance of Apocalypse attracted the attention of most of the Titans, but there were still a few Titans who only stared at Binghua. For this, Binghua could only give them death. Binghua had already had experience in dealing with such a huge enemy. The Shenshen chain shot out from the void and was directly anchored at the front after being submerged in the Titan's armor. Immediately, Binghua used the force field to assist in controlling the Shenshen chain, which could save a lot of energy, and dragged the Titan to the side, knocking down his companions. Binghua then came into the air, and the thunder above the king's sword in his hand kept leaping, spreading out streaks of leaping lightning tentacles toward the surrounding space. As Binghua's special skill, Binghua's thunder tactics are not weaker than Ran's. This powerful energy lightning attack does the most damage to powerful organisms like the Titans. Before the fallen Titan could get up, Binghua, carrying thunder and lightning, fell onto his breastplate. Immediately, a stinging pain spread from the Titan's chest, followed by extreme pain and numbness. The thick thunder snakes spread towards the Titan's body, centered on the place where Hyoka King's sword was immersed, and scorched all the blood vessels, meridians, and internal organs in the Titan's body. At first, the Titan was still struggling, but after 10 seconds, his raised arm crashed down, and he stopped responding. Seeing this, another Titan on the side stepped down angrily in the direction of Binghua. In response, the angel wings on Binghua's back gently encouraged him to leave the Titan who had no vital signs under him. Seeing that he missed with one kick, the Titan god waved the giant soldier in his hand in an attempt to hit Binghua with the weapon's huge coverage. Binghua relied on calculations to sometimes rise and sometimes lower herself to avoid the giant soldiers waving in succession. After the distance was almost the same, Binghua raised his sword and swung out a huge flaming slash, knocking the Titan to the ground. Normally, a warship would definitely be cut with a huge gap if it was struck by Binghua's casual flame attack, not to mention splitting into two pieces. But the Titan only had a fiery red slash mark on his breastplate, and he quickly gritted his teeth and climbed up, wanting to fight Binghua to the end. Binghua relied on his own mobility to casually dodge the giant hands that the Titan was grabbing and the giant soldiers that were slashing and smashing. His eyes of insight were always paying attention to the retreating Kalar people. Strictly speaking, the damage caused by the attacks of the Justice World and the Mellow Heavenly Court, as well as the Titans and Apocalypse mechas that were constantly clashing and fighting on the ruins of the city, were no less important to the Kalar people in this area at the moment. A horrific natural disaster. Just in the area that Binghua's eye of insight focused on, tens of thousands of Kalar people died in the collapse of the underground city caused by the aftermath of the surface battle. There are men, women, and even ignorant children among them, but no one can rescue them at this moment. Angels can't do it, the righteous world can't do it, and even Binghua can't do it. Although Binghua can destroy the stars and restrain the sun, she really can't rely on the force field to rescue the Kalar people in the dungeon. Although the force field can easily lift a continent and pull down the stars, when Binghua lifts the entire ruins, the solid force field will also squeeze the Kalar people inside into flesh and blood. This was the reason why Binghua did not use her own power to rescue the Kalar people. Even if she could do such a delicate thing, the angels of the heavenly palace and the Titans who were close at hand would never give up the opportunity to stop her. But there is good news, that is, the Kalar people are about to complete their evacuation, so they no longer have to worry about these weak lives. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 1064. In an area 10 kilometers away from the royal court of Heavenly Palace, some Kalar people sitting on simple vehicles looked at the rolling fire clouds and dust smoke rising from time to time in the sky with complicated eyes. It was the place where they grew up and lived, but now it collapsed for the second time in the war. The first celestial army came, destroyed their city, and killed the troops guarding the Kalar people. Now that the second angel has come, in order to destroy the cruel rule of the heavenly palace, their home where they have lived for several years has been destroyed again, and they have to escape with their only remaining family members. At this moment, the Kalar people who looked back at the battlefield all widened their eyes in shock, because they were flying. The ruins of the city where the heavenly palace royal court was located unexpectedly broke off the ground. Together with the ruins of the city below them, they slowly rose up under the gaze of the Kalar people, and then tilted sharply to one side and fell. Even though they were so far apart, the Kalar people could still hear the loud noise coming from the sky and the strong winds that swept through them. On the battlefield, the uncaring Binghua no longer indulged the Titans and the heavenly palace. The force field of the Titan's grip controlled the high-power operation, peeling off the heavenly palace and the land below it directly from the surface, and treating them as a stone hits the area with the most Titans. At this time, at least a dozen Titan warriors were trapped beneath the falling heavenly palace, where they knew whether they were alive or dead. Encountering such turmoil, the shield of the Tiangong royal court also fluctuated, and the Tiangong guards inside were also thrown to pieces. Just when Tiangong was caught off guard by Binghua's sudden move, the Justice World Annihilation-class mothership located in the outer orbit of the Carol star suddenly fired two translucent blue rays. Stasis energy rays are a secret weapon carried by the Annihilation class. They are also the only warships in the Justice World equipped with this weapon. Only the Annihilation class can support the energy consumption of the launch. In an instant, the time and space in an area of the Heavenly Palace Royal Court almost came to a standstill under the influence of the stasis ray, and then the Skyblade and the Annihilation class secondary guns fired wildly at this area. A beam of light, cone-shaped spear-like rays entered the stagnant space and fell into a stagnant state. In this way, they gathered more and more densely. When the Imperial Guards of Tiangong who came back to their senses in the Tiangong Royal Court saw this bizarre scene, they all opened their eyes in horror. Seeing that the attacks in the stasis field were about to reach saturation, the annihilation stage finally stopped firing. At the next moment, everyone in the dazzling bright light subconsciously turned their faces away to avoid the bright light. After a burst of continuous bangs, a large hole was blown out of the shield of the Heavenly Palace, and many of the luxurious and magnificent palaces inside were blown into ruins. The defense system of the Heavenly Palace has been destroyed. The sisters rushed in to kill Huaya and avenge Queen Kesha. Seeing that there was a gap in the shield of the Heavenly Palace, the Angel Legion of Merlot Heavenly Palace immediately shouted excitedly in the communication, attracting the attention of a large number of companions. Seeing this, Binghua stopped entangled with the Titans, and incited the wings behind him to easily pass through their blockade, followed the gap in the shield that had not yet been restored, and entered the palace of the Heavenly Palace. The angel warriors who entered the royal court before Binghua encountered a stubborn resistance from the surviving Tiangong guards. Those who could stay here on duty were the best among the Tiangong guards. It was easy to face off against ordinary angel warriors, but even ordinary angel warriors were soon targeted by high-level angels. A burst of dark energy and energy slashes flying through the air occupied the sky inside the Tiangong royal court. These heavenly palace guards could block the intrusion of ordinary angel warriors, but they could not stop Binghua. With the horizontal sword in front of him, Binghua easily blocked the cross sword struck by a Tiangong imperial guard, and then he stretched his weapon and launched a diagonal slash. The Tiangong imperial guard who blocked Binghua couldn't react at all. His armor and chest were cut open by the king's sword in Binghua's hand. A large amount of energy particles similar to blood spurted out, and his body fell backwards helplessly. On the ground, a high-ranking angel from the heavenly palace died under Binghua's sword. The angel from the heavenly palace who followed behind him felt a chill in his heart. But they had no way out, so they could only grit their teeth and charge forward. For a moment, the ground was full of weapons slashed by the Tiangong guards. Seeing this, Binghua kept walking and stretched out his hand to push the air in front of him. The dozens of Tiangong guards rushing in front felt a huge force pushing from the side, and they all hit the wall on the right side of the corridor and fell. Became a ball. A few minutes later, Binghua left the heavenly palace guard angel lying on the ground behind him, raised his foot and kicked down the closed metal door in front of him, and entered the main hall of the heavenly palace royal court. There was no one in the seat belonging to the heavenly palace King Huaya, but in front of the high throne stood an old angel with some gray hair on his temples. Your target is indeed the king, but unfortunately you have arrived too late. The king has already left and will lead the main force of the Tiangong army to return for reinforcements. King of Heavenly Sword, soon you and your warriors will be surrounded by an army of millions of angels and countless servants of the heavenly palace. Listening to the words of this old angel wearing rather gorgeous armor, Binghua was not too surprised. She had expected that Huaya would run away. It would have been better not to run away, but it was obvious that Huaya was not the kind of fool who would hit an egg with a stone. He also knew how to set a trap to defeat him. Who are you? You are willing to stay and die. You are quite loyal to Huaya. Binghua stepped closer to the old angel and asked casually, not caring about falling into a trap. The old man is Hua Miao, the commander-in-chief of the heavenly palace, one of the most trusted angels of King Huaye. Seeing Binghua approaching the Tiangong commander, he also raised the cross épée in front of him, seemingly intending to spar with Binghua. Really? I hope your death can make Huaye sad for a while. After all, I still have some debts to settle with him. As soon as he finished speaking, Binghua appeared in front of the old angel dragging Wang Jian like a flash, and Wang Jian lifted his weight and struck down hard. Boom! An invisible shockwave spread out, and the originally smooth floor under their feet was shattered inch by inch. The cross épée parried by the old angel kept trembling and buzzing, trying to fly out from his master's control. As a last resort, the old angel could only stagger back to relieve his force, but Binghua did not give him a chance. He spun around and lunged forward, slashing 360 degrees through the air with the sword in his hand and slashing out again with greater force. The old angel commander, who originally thought he could fight with the heavenly sword king, flew out directly, causing spider web-like cracks in the wall of the main hall before falling to the ground. Binghua cancelled his slashing posture and looked at the old angel who was getting up. It seems that you are just an old man who can only talk nonsense. Huaye will have no use keeping you here. Hearing this, the old angel gritted his teeth and stood up again, dark energy gushing out from his body, obviously recklessly increasing the output of his genetic engine. Binghua's response was very simple. He opened the weapons arsenal and shot out the god-beaming chain. The old angel's expression condensed and he quickly flew up to avoid it. But the god-beaming chains entangled with each other in the air, forming a criss-crossing blockade, entangled around the old angel's body, and dragged him back to the ground. The old angel struggled hard, but it had no effect except that the chain of the goddess of strength creaked. Give up, you can't break free of the silver chain with your own strength. After Binghua's words fell, the space beside him blurred again. A flaming sword slowly poked out the tip of the sword, and then surging dark energy began to pour in, making the sword become as red as fire. Don't worry, you won't be alone. Huaye will be with you soon. Raising his left hand, Binghua pressed his fingers forward, and the flaming sword that had completed its maximum charge turned into a red stream and shot out. The old angel watched helplessly as the flaming sword sank into his chest, but he had no room for resistance. The red energy spread, and the flaming sword began to exert its effect, quickly destroying the old angel's super gene. In less than 10 seconds, the old angel's raised head was pulled down. After doing all this, Binghua turned around and left the main hall without any nostalgia. Since Huaye was not here, there was no need to continue to waste time. Goddess, the outer Tiangong Imperial defense line has collapsed. Should we shrink the front line and prepare to retreat? Ian's voice sounded in the communication, and Binghua replied directly. Huaye is not here. Please inform Maro Heavenly Court that our goal has been achieved and it is time for us to retreat. Binghua had found the path Huaye left through the dark information collected by the Eye of Insight, but it was already too late. This is the core of the Tiangong group. Although the opponent was caught off guard by a sudden attack, hundreds of thousands of male angel legions and countless beast-shaped civilized armies will soon come back to support. If you don't want the tens of thousands of angels from Merlo Heaven to be trapped here, retreat is the best option. This is already in the battle plan. It would be a surprise if Huaye could be beheaded in this operation. The most important thing was to destroy the Tiangong Royal Court, the headquarters of the Tiangong Group, which would cause a huge psychological blow to the ordinary soldiers of Tiangong. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1065. A few hours later, when Huaye mobilized the Tiangong Angel Legion to confront Maro Heavenly Court and return to the Kalar planetary system with the intention of surrounding and annihilating Binghua and her subordinates, he found that it was already too late. Huaye didn't even see a single hair on the female angel's head. The Merlo Heavenly Court had already retreated first, leaving behind only the ruins of the Heavenly Palace Royal Court and the corpses of the Heavenly Palace guards and the Titans. Even the Tiangong commander who stayed to hold back Binghua's troops did not survive. It could be said that the court Tiangong headquarters suffered heavy losses in this surprise attack. Huaya had no choice but to be incompetent and furious. He couldn't even gather his troops to retaliate against Binghua, because the main force under his command was either confronting the Merlot Heavenly Court or extinguishing the resistance forces of the Kamigawa Alliance. It is okay to temporarily transfer these frontline legions to return reinforcements, but if they are transferred, Merlot Heavenly Court will definitely stab Tiangong in the butt immediately. The same is true for the Kamigawa Alliance. When Tiangong attacked, many of the resistors were massacred. The two sides have become mortal enemies. If there is a chance, the other side will bite back at Tiangong. And recently, after the Liang civilization swallowed up the Styx galaxy, it is still a little bit ready to move, and it seems that it has some ideas about the star field occupied by the Tiangong army. Various events indicate that the current situation of Tiangong group is not good. As a king who has been in the Edge star field for many years, Huaya knows very well that if it is not handled well, this will be a precursor to the collapse of Tiangong group. What Huaya didn't know was that although he did not die in Binghua's sneak attack, the destruction of the Tiangong royal court, combined with the repeated defeats at the hands of the Merlot Heavenly Court, made the Tiangong warriors doubt their victory for the first time. If Tiangong hadn't won the war against the Kamigawa Alliance and stopped the Avalanche's morale, I'm afraid there would have been some deserters in the Tiangong army. But even so, some male angels who had recently joined the Tiangong army began to feel alive in their hearts. They followed Huaye's call and joined him for the sake of strength and the female angel. But now many of their companions have died, but the female angel has not been seen at all. Some male angels have already begun to plan to break away from the Heavenly Palace army if things go badly and continue to live their previous happy lives, saving them from risking their lives all day long and still getting nothing. In the starfield on the edge of the world of justice, as Binghua and the two Annihilation-class ships that participated in the operation returned, Rand stationed here breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that nothing unexpected would happen with the Queen's strength, Rand still felt worried. The first thing Binghua did when she returned to the Angel Guard base was to let the Justice World warriors and high-level angels following her take a few days of rest. Binghua himself returned to his room after greeting Rand, who was stationed there, and immediately saw Kesha sitting on the corner of the table with her legs crossed. "Looking at you, you probably didn't kill Hua yet. He probably ran away." Kesha stopped flipping through the projected information, looked at Binghua, who opened the door and said teasingly, her tone extremely determined. "You are right, I did not meet that guy Huaya in the Tiangong Palace. An angel with seniority under him saw through the target of our operation and asked Huaya to leave there to gather an army. But it's a pity that he is too weak to hold us back. Otherwise, if Huaya successfully returned reinforcements, the casualties this time would not be so small." Binghua briefly talked about what happened, and Kesha nodded slightly after hearing the words. "Actually, it's enough. The Tiangong group is sure to have people's hearts floating around. It's like taking advantage of the situation to increase its attack on Tiangong. Soon Huaye's prestige will be completely lost." Keisha pointedly pointed out the situation Huaya is facing now and gave her own opinion. "No need to bother, Huaye's failure is only a matter of time. The reason why I planned this operation was just to make the next war easier." Binghua took off his outer armor, revealing the close-fitting silver lining, and then made a move in the direction of the wardrobe on the side. As the lines outlined by the fiery red particles took shape, Binghua had put on a loose and comfortable uniform. There will be no fighting for the next period of time, so Binghua doesn't want to wear armor all day long. At this moment, Binghua's room door was lightly knocked, and Binghua said, "Come in." As the closed door to the room opened, Jingnan stepped in and saw Binghua changing into regular clothes, and asked in surprise, "Queen, are you planning to travel?" No, what do you want from me? You seem to be in a hurry. Binghua stretched out her hands to gather her long hair and tied it back into a high ponytail, exposing her white neck. In an instant, Binghua's temperament changed from an elegant and noble goddess to a cold and arrogant royal sister. Jingnan began to stop talking about things in a hurry and began to watch Binghua take care of her long hair with admiring eyes. It wasn't until Binghua put down the hand that was twirling her long hair and turned around to look at Jingnan that she spoke. It's like this: when you, the goddess, led the Annihilation class to attack the Kalar planetary system, first and second days, the Legion of Angels clamored to come over to help the Queen destroy the Queen's enemies. However, because you are not here, Queen, I refused because of the safety of the just world. At the same time, the triangular organisms have recently increased their investment in the Edge star field. The new Shima Empire, the servant army under Huaya, has already lost nearly half of the living planets. As Jingnan reported the recent intelligence one by one, Binghua also gained some understanding of the recent situation in the Edge star field. In short, it was very chaotic. The triangular creatures took advantage of the fact that the major civilizations in the known universe had no time to pay attention to them, and began to continuously add troops to the known universe to expand their control area. Sooner or later something will happen if this continues. Huaya needs to be dealt with as soon as possible, and the gun should be turned to aim at the triangles to drive them out of the known universe. There is also the fact that the Liang civilization, which has just entered the Styx galaxy, was attacked by an unknown entity and lost many people. It is now conducting a large-scale investigation in the Styx galaxy. The war situation between the Hayden civilization and the Thane civilization in the Porker Nebula began to tilt towards the Hayden civilization. The Thane civilization began to have some weak successors, and recently it has frequently lost resource planets. The Shenhe Alliance, which was the main target of the conquest by Tiangong, has ceased to exist in name only. The Tyran people's home planet has fallen, and now only the Kalan people are still resisting desperately. However, according to the deduction results obtained by the Supreme Tactical Planning Department using known conditions, without the intervention of angels or civilizations of the same level, it is only a matter of time before the Kalan's home planet falls. Don't underestimate Tiangong just because they have frequently failed in Merlo Heaven and the world of justice. Compared to other god-making civilizations in the known universe, Tiangong is still quite strong. It's almost equivalent to the enhanced version of Merlot's heavenly court of physical warfare more than 10,000 years ago. It's no problem to beat some cats and dogs. It can be said that if Huaya had not insisted on competing with Marrow Heavenly Palace for the sovereignty of the Angel Nebula, Heavenly Palace would have been considered the overlord in the universe. After all, it had destroyed the existence of the righteous order without the holy Kesha.